Hare Krishna. Welcome to all of you. And today we'll be discussing on Bhagavad Gita Chapter 3. So broadly we have classified Chapter 3 into various segments, and today we'll be discussing the first segment of Chapter 3. So Chapter 3 begins with the question by Arjuna to Krishna that, my dear Lord, if you think intelligence is better than fruitive activities, then why do you ask me to engage in this ghastly warfare in the battlefield? Jayati cheta karmanaste matta buddhir janagana tatkim karmani ghore ma. So, this beginning happens in second chapter, when Krishna tells Arjuna that Durenahi avaram karma buddhi yogam dhananjaya. That, my dear Arjuna, use your intelligence and Durenahi avaram karma. Stay away from unwanted fruitive activities. So this confusion of Arjuna became the beginning of third chapter. Now, the point here is, Arjuna, being the great devotee of Krishna, he is eternally, transcendentally situated. But he is taking a position of a normal jiva so that this confusion which always remains in the mind of jiva can be sorted out. So actually this is a question of Arjuna on behalf of all of us, that what should we do? Actually, at the end of the chapter 3, the conclusion, we will see that even in the third chapter, titled as Karma Yoga, also Krishna proves that we are soul. We are not this body. Krishna began second chapter with this statement: you are not this body, you are the spirit soul. Even in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna concludes with the same. But nonetheless, because Arjuna takes our position and he was confused, so many of us are also confused in our life. So the point which we need to learn from Arjuna is to submit our confusion to Krishna, to some superior personality like Krishna. And as it is said in the second chapter, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Arjuna, being a good student, he submitted his query to his Guru Krishna. So likewise in our life, if we have a confusion, then we need to submit ourselves to a higher personality, spiritual personality, a Guru, a Krishna. And that's how the beginning of the third chapter happens. And Arjuna tells to Krishna, my dear Lord, I am confused by your this equivocal instruction. And I humbly request you to guide me what to do. Many times it so happens that we are so independent in our decisions, we think that whatever I do, it's right. Now you imagine, Arjuna was not an ordinary personality, but he was ready to take guidance from Krishna. This is our culture. Every section of our life, we need right guidance. Like, even if you see in the Ramayana also, Lord Ramachandra used to take guidance from Rishi Vasishtha, even the Lord himself. But he set up a process So that is why Krishna recommends Tadvidhi pranipratena. We need to approach a spiritual master for the confusion of our life. And what are those questions for which we need to approach, that we will see in upcoming verses. But now here Krishna answers, Lokeshmin dvividhanishta pura prokta mayanakha. He says, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained to you that there are two classes of men who tries for self-realization. And who are they? Jnana yogena sankhyanam. There are people who tries to realize their self by sankhyanam, empirical philosophical knowledge. And there are others who tries to realize the self by jnana yogena, by devotional service. So it's a very important point which Prabhupada mentions here in this particular verse, that the branch of knowledge has basically two parts. One that is theory and one that is practical. Like if we see in science, there is theory and there is practical. Similarly, when we see spirituality, in spirituality also, if you see, we have two things. One is philosophy and one is practices. So Prabhupada mentions here that the philosophy without religion is sentiments. Philosophy without religion is sentiment. And religion without philosophy is fanaticism. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Shruti Smruti Puranadi Pancharatrika Vidhim Vina Ekantikir Harer Bhaktir Utpati Ati Kevalam. What does that mean is that if anybody tries to practice some form of spirituality which is not based on Smritis, Shruti and Puranas and Pancharatrika Vidhis, then it is a disturbance in the society. Utpate Ati Kevalam. So basically, religion is a combination of both theory and practical. Let's say if somebody is only practicing philosophy, but he does not put those things in practice as given in the scripture, then it makes no value. If somebody talks big things, this is this way, it is that way, this is that way. No, in today's world there are big orators. They talk whole lot about big theories. But we don't see them practicing as per the scriptures. So that creates a disturbance. If we see in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada gave us both theory and practical, a complete form. Like if you see in the morning, we have Mangala Darshan, we have Shingara Darshan. That is practical. Then so many devotees have got a lot of services. And after that we have Bhagavatam classes. And that's theory. So you see the combination, theory and practical. So science is complete when there is theory and practical. Likewise, Bhakti Yoga is a science. Why? Because there is theory and there is practical. You see that? It's not a just some emotion. Bhakti is a science. And one has to understand this. Just by theory it doesn't work out. Anyone can make any theory. No, Chanakya Pandita, it is mentioned that Naso Yashya Rishi Yashya Matam Na Bhinnam. Srila Prabhupada says that one philosopher cannot succeed or cannot become successful in his life unless he differs from other philosopher. That means every philosopher has to come up with some new philosophy. Then only people will come to him. Not like you see in today's world, there are every great so-called big orators, they have their own philosophy. But if we see them, their conclusions don't match what Krishna says. So, if we only practice philosophy, we only talk about philosophy, but we do not practice them in our day-to-day life, then it is a waste of time. Shama eva hi kevalam. So, we need to practice that. And the difference between the Karma Yoga and Bhakti is very simple. No, Karma Yoga is like going to the 100th floor of building by step, by ladder. And Bhakti Yoga is like a lift. You get that? Both are reaching to the same destination. But one is lift. You just press a button and immediately in few minutes you are there. But if you go by steps, you have to go one by one. It may take a lot of time. So that's the difference between Bhakti and Karma. And after that, Krishna explains in 4th verse that Na karmanam anarambham neshkarmyam purushoshnute. He says, not merely by abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction. Now someone may think, if any form of work is so bad, then let me renounce the work. And then I'll be free. So here Krishna says, Na karmanam anarambham, na cha sanyasanadeva. Let me take sannyasa. Let me give up work and let me take sannyasa. Siddhim samadhigacchati. Krishna says, nor by renunciation alone one can attain perfection. It is not true that if we refrain from work, if we get sannyasa, then we are perfect. No, it's not that. And actually, in the second, next shloka, Krishna writes, Nahi kasti kshanamapi jatu karmasya krit. That actually, in fact, no one can live without working even for a moment. It's not possible to give up work. In order to maintain ourselves, we must work. Now you see, Prabhupada mentions a very important point here is, actually both the shlokas starts with na. Krishna doesn't recommend that. Na karmanam anarambha, not by giving work. Na cha sanyasanadeva, not by taking sannyas. See, Krishna is the highest authority and he confirms here. There are a lot of people for the purpose of cheap adorations. they take some form of renunciation. But if you look at the larger pictures, the goal of spirituality is not renunciation. Renunciation is just a tool to develop devotion to Supreme Lord. Just alone renunciation is not recommended in scriptures. If we see in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya also, sannyasa was not there for some time after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is later Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, he brought again back sannyasa for the purpose of preaching. Before that, sannyasa was zero that time. And actually Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions that Ashwamedham Gavalambham Devarena Sutotpatim Kalopancha Vivarjaye. Among the 5 things prohibited in Kali Yuga, one is sannyasa. And the sannyasa provided is not that sannyasa which was mentioned in the scriptures. The sannyasa introduced by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura and Srila Prabhupada is for the sake of preaching. Why? Because it is very, very difficult to follow that form of sannyasa in Kali Yuga. So one cannot think that I will take sannyasa and let me welcome all kind of adorations, the charities, the donations, and let me do all my vicious things which I like. Among the few parts of attraction, among that charity, the renunciation can be easily showed off. But in true sense, the true part of spirituality, that is patience, perseverance, forgiveness, it cannot be truthfulness, it cannot be showed off. So Krishna doesn't recommend such kind of renunciation. If we see in today's world, a lot of people have taken this form of renunciation, knowledge, and they know the trick of how to attract people by using these elements. And the people in Kali Yuga also are so heavily occupied that they don't have any time to verify all that facts. And people are just fooled of that. But on strict note, Krishna doesn't recommend such form of renunciation because in society they are just utpate atikevalam. They are form of disturbance because they misled people who are actually looking for true happiness, true purpose of their life. And it is a duty of such people who have taken the position of such leader to guide people in right direction. And that is why Krishna is saying, Karyate hi avasham karma sarva prakritir jair. Everyone. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Everyone is forced to act helplessly. We are forced. And what does this force means? This means that activeness is the nature of the soul. Body on its own cannot have activeness. Like a dead body cannot be active. It is a nature of the soul that is to be active. See, you get that? So, just imagine the soul which is encaged in this body. And being in this body, the soul can be so active. You are encaged, you are in the prison, but still you are so active. Now just imagine if Jiva is free from the bondage of material nature, then how much soul will be active? So here Krishna is basically trying to prove that soul is active. Sarva Prakritir Jeruna. Everyone has got some modes of nature. We are forced to act because of these modes of nature. Modes of nature are not the final decision maker. They are just a cover up for our body. And they direct based on the guna what we reflect to in the material modes of nature, we are directed. If we are able to free ourselves, we can be much faster. Like, I remember when we go to Kedarnath, we need to climb. 17 kilometer, 18 kilometer, we need to climb. So, if someone has the load of something on his body, then definitely the speed of walk will be less. But if we are free from the load, then we can walk much faster. So likewise, the soul has captured so much of weight in this world and is completely busy. And that's where further Krishna mentions that karme indriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmaran. One who restrains the senses and organs of action means samyamya, one who is trying to control and whose mind dwells ya asate manasasmaran, but still his mind dwells on sense objects. So here Krishna says indriyartha vimudatma mithyacharas uchyate. Certainly he deludes himself and he is called Mithyachari. Mithyachari means achara. Achara means behavior. And Mithya means false. Mithyachara, false behavior. That in one way he is trying to restrain, and in another way he is always dwelling in the sense objects. So devotee may question here that we are also trying to control our senses. But we are failing many times. So are we Mithyachari? Are we behaving falsely? Are we hypocrites? So in Kali Yuga, unless you act on your thoughts, you are not bound. Like our mind restores all the memories. Whatever we have done in our life, maybe in this life, maybe in previous lives, whatever is there is recorded here. There is a gallery here. Now, the pictures may just cross on. Just like if you are doing some work, you may have to see many things. You get your work done and the work completes. Similarly, in our mind, so many images may pass through. But when we start acting on that, then there is a problem. Oh, let me enjoy this. This is giving me so much pleasure. Then we become bound. So, there may be thousands of thoughts may pass through. But we should not act on that. Today is the Kali Yuga, it's the time of Kali Yuga. Every nook and corner of the world is filled with attractions. We cannot close our eyes. We are part of this world, we are living in this world, we are moving around this world, we may have to see so many things. Kali Yuga is so powerful. The Kali is so powerful that you need not to go anywhere. Wherever you are there only Maya will attack. But unless you act on that, we may be passing the road and we may see a very big billboard. But if we start thinking on that, if we start contemplating on that, if we start acting on those thoughts, then there is a problem. So unless we are acting on our thoughts, we are away from this sin. Otherwise, let the thoughts just pass on. Many times devotees ask me this question that Prabhu, before I was chanting, before I was not chanting, that time my mind was very peaceful. But after I have taken the process of chanting Krishna's name, I see my mind is disturbed with so many thoughts. So Srila Prabhupada says, when you are chanting is a cleaning process. And what happens when we are doing cleaning? The dust becomes visible. Invariably, if you see, dust may not be so visible unless you are clean. But when you clean, you see, oh, this much dust has assembled. So while chanting, when the thoughts are crossing in our mind, that does not necessarily mean that they are entering inside the mind. You are cleaning now, so it also means that it is going out. So when the dust is going out, it will be visible. So you need not to get disturbed when so many thoughts are hampering your mind. Have patience. You have taken up to the process of chanting, you have taken up to the process of cleaning, soon you will be free. Basically here Krishna is trying to guide devotees to stay away from such kind of renunciation, such form of adorations, and such form of contemplation on sense object. Why? Because they will just ruin our devotion and create disturbance in the society. And in the further verse, Krishna says that perform your prescribed duty. For action is better than inaction. A man cannot maintain his physical body without work. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. We need to work. We cannot stay zero. But here there is a specific mention of prescribed duty. Now, these prescribed duties are mentioned in Vedas. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Our duties, our prescribed duties are mentioned in Vedas. And these Vedas are directly originated from the Lord, infallible Lord. That is why Lord is infallible. Vedas are infallible. And they describe our duty. So if we practice those duties, then we are safe. You see that? And then the first segment, where Krishna ends the first segment of third chapter, is Yagnarthat Karmano Natya. Yagnarthat Karmano Anyatra Lokoyam Karma Bandhanaha. Krishna recommends to offer our work to Him so that we can become purified. He says, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. When we work for Krishna, we are free. Just like Prabhupada gives example of a soldier. No, at the battlefield, soldier may kill so many enemies. And what does he get by that? He gets name and rewards for that. Because he did for the government. But if the same thing if he does when he comes to home for in his own area, which is not government job, then what happens? He is immediately arrested. The form of action is same, but the results are different. So that's what Krishna is trying to highlight here, that when somebody works for Vishnu, he is free. Yagnartha karmano natra. Otherwise, lokoyam karma bandhana, it binds us. So when we do not offer our work to Krishna, then we are bound by that work. Now look at some of the personalities that, like Janak Maharaj. In the further segments also his descriptions will come. But nonetheless, it is important, so would like to touch that point here is that Janak Maharaj, if you see, he was a king. Same time, he was one of the greatest devotee of Lord Ramachandra. He was father of Lord Ramachandra. But still, he executed all his duties so perfectly. There was no need for him to work so much. He was already a elevated soul. But for the sake of his praja, for the sake of the society, which we will see in upcoming segments, that the knowledgeable person acts wisely for the sake of others, so that others will see him and learn something, how to conduct their life. So that form of sannyasa, which does not fall for the devotion and it is only for the cheap adorations, it is far, far better to execute our duty. That is why Prabhupada says, cheap sannyasa is not appreciated. Rather than a devotee in the family life who has been in family, who is living with family, who is practicing Krishna consciousness, the principles, he is far, far better than that kind of sannyasi, and he himself is a sannyasi. Because he is following the principle of Krishna consciousness. He is offering his work to Krishna, he is offering his work to Vishnu. He is far better than that sannyasi. So, if we look at this segment of third chapter, basically Krishna is gradually moving the consciousness of Arjuna from fruitive activities to work for Krishna, work for Vishnu. So, we all devotees have to see that essentially this Karma Yoga means working for Vishnu, working for Krishna. And why we need to work for Krishna is that because we will become free from the bondage of our work. Every action we do has a reaction. So, when we work for Vishnu, when we work for Krishna, It is akarma. It is a form of activity which does not have material reaction. It only rewards a devotee, an individual, with spiritual rewards, which we actually are looking for. After all, Jiva is looking for what? Longing for what? Why we have that longing for permanent relationship? Why do we have that longing for permanent enjoyment? In everything we are looking for permanent, but ultimately we are cheated in this Kali Yuga with temporary things, temporary pleasures. And only such personalities like Srila Prabhupada and such acharyas are only showing us the path of truth. If you see, everywhere we are only given not a complete picture. Only half truth is presented to us. If you look at this beauty products, okay, millions and millions of dollars are spent on the advertisements. And what does that say? You use this product, you will be beautified. You will not become old, you will always remain healthy. But if you see, nobody gives you complete picture. That whatever product you may use, one fine day you have to die, so better you prepare. But what happens? We get cheated. We get cheated in this glamorous world. And our attention is diverted for something else. But if you see here, Krishna repeatedly brings the focus of Arjuna on two primary things. First thing is, Krishna is again reminding that Arjuna, you are not this body or soul. Even when Krishna is trying to teach him about his activities, how to work, even in that segment also Krishna is wanting to prove to Arjuna that you are not this body, you are soul. So unless you know that you are soul, your activities cannot be spiritual. If you do not accept that you are soul, how will you be spiritual? Because the very fact of spirituality means you are soul. So, Krishna doesn't lose his focus. And in similar way, intelligent student and intelligent disciple should not lose his focus from his life. And he should try to find the truth from superior personality. The difference between the material process and spiritual process is that material process is Arohana Pantha. The material process is Avrohana Pantha. And the spiritual process is Arohana Pantha. Ascending process and descending process. And what does that mean? Ascending process means material knowledge is something where you are trying to find the truth by doing so many experiments. Whereas spiritual process is descending process, Arohana Pantha. We accept the truth from the higher source, qualified source, but no, the bona fide source. And what happens by that? We save our time. Because we do not have much time. If we try to find the truth, it's not wrong, but it has some defect. As we have limited life, limited span of life, if we waste our time in finding the truth, to give you a better example, is that Prabhupada explains that a child who has lost his mother or a father, he can try to find his father or a mother by doing a DNA test of everyone present in this world. But the intelligent process will be that if I want to find my mother, let me ask my father. Father will tell immediately who is your mother. So, descending process has certain advantages more than ascending process, because science is experimental, whereas spiritual life is experiential. We experience things in the higher segment, in the higher section of our life. Like we all devotees, why we have given up our life to Krishna? Because we are experiencing that higher pleasure. When we go to temple, when we have attend Mangalarti, no, first of all, it is very difficult for someone to get up at so early in the morning. But we get up early in the morning and we hear the beautiful bhajan, Samsara. It's a higher experience. And then sit for chanting Hare Krishna, hear Krishna's holy name, and derive unlimited pleasure, which is helping us to strengthen our spiritual immunity and give up all kinds of bad habits we had. You see, chanting of Hare Krishna is so powerful in every nook and corner of the world that Srila Prabhupada penetrated in the heart of devotees and made them to give up all sorts of bad things and make them a beautiful Vaishnavas. It's an experience. So we must take this pleasure of offering our work to Krishna. Yagnarthat karmano anyatra. And then we will be free from the chain of reactions in our life. So this is the first segment of chapter 3. We'll be discussing chapter 3's other segments in our upcoming sessions. Hare Krishna.